I came across these interesting articles and thought of digging down deep into India's e-commerce landscape. Hey folks, see Rachana Ranade here, and I welcome you all to a very interesting video wherein we are going to focus on India's retail story, and more specifically, we're going to talk about the e-commerce story in India. Now, by now, I'm sure everyone knows that India is entering one of its biggest consumption booms in history. Currently, the overall Indian retail market stands at a valuation of 83 trillion rupees, and it is expected to reach 123 to 135 trillion rupees by 2030. Now, what could lead this entire growth? It could be multiple factors, something like rising middle class, urbanization, a young growing working force, and very important, the massive demand from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. Now, it is said that the next 500 million customers may not come from Mumbai or Bangalore, but there's a great chance that they may come from cities like Kanpur, Kota, Coimbatore, Nagpur, Patna, Guwahati, and other similar cities, right? Now, where does India's real retail story lives? And for that, we have to understand that overall retail market can be divided into two parts. One can be unorganized retail, the other one can be organized retail. We are going to focus only on organized retail today. Okay, that again gets split into two parts. One could be something like a modern offline, and the other one will be e-commerce. Now, if I talk about modern offline, we can have examples like DMart or Big Basket and likes of that, right? But again, we are not going to focus on that today. We're going to focus on e-commerce. Okay, now, this e-commerce currently, if I talk about the overall GMV is gross merchandise value, total value, that by 2030, this is expected to grow to 15 to 18 trillion rupees. Okay, and this from the current level to 15 to 18 trillion rupees, that growth is accounted for around 20 to 25% CAGR, and this is increasingly driving because of non-electronic categories, something like fashion, home, lifestyle, and this is the place where overall India's supply is pretty much fragmented. So when I'm going back to the e-commerce split, here we have again two categories. Which two categories? We could have something like convenience e-commerce, and the second one is value e-commerce. Again, let's understand what is the difference between convenience and value e-commerce. Now, if I talk about shoppers who are in the convenience e-commerce category, they are like urban premium customers. They are like, we want more convenience. We are interested in speed. Okay, are they ready to pay a bit more? Absolutely, yes, possible. Their average order value is somewhere around 900 to 1800 rupees. They'll focus more on branded products, electronic goods, and they will be mainly focusing on fast logistics. They are okay with expensive products, like I said, and they may go to platforms something like Amazon or Flipkart. Okay, but if I'm talking about value e-commerce, in value e-commerce, here the premium, or here the audience basically would be mass market, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. Here people are interested in more for low priced products. Okay, rather than speed and convenience, they say sasta chahiye, we want low price products. Their average order value could range somewhere between 250 rupees to 350 rupees, right? They are absolutely fine with unbranded products, with regional products. They are more interested in logistics, which are like low cost. They are okay with aggregated delivery structures as well. And all in all, if I were to give you one example for such category of value e-commerce, best example could be Misho. Now, if I tell you that value e-commerce is something which can be the next big thing, you might be like, Rachna, why are you saying that? And if we were to understand what could happen in India, we have to zoom out a little bit, and we have to understand what has happened in China or Southeast Asia. And if that model were to repeat in India, then what could happen with the overall value e-commerce theme? Now let's understand some key data points wherein we are comparing India versus China. We also have Southeast Asia in picture, but my focus is going to be more for comparing India with China. Okay. Now, of course, you can see the whole chart, but reading all that is not the main thing that we want to do. We'll focus on key data points. Okay. So let's blur out and let's focus on the key data points. Okay, here we go. First things first, we should know how much are the e-commerce shoppers in India, because as I told you, today our focus is not only on retail, we are going to focus more on e-commerce, right? Now in e-commerce, overall shoppers in India in millions are 250 to 270 millions. And if I were to compare that with China, they have 950 million e-commerce shoppers. Okay, so can I say roughly China has 4x or 4 times number of shoppers for e-commerce. Okay, so think logically. Acha, we have 250 e-commerce shoppers, and let's say they have 1000 e-commerce shoppers. So if we buy goods worth rupees 250, China should buy goods worth rupees 1000 with that logic. But does this logic hold true? Let's check. Now let's check the overall market or e-commerce market size. How much is that? If you check here, overall e-commerce market size in billion is 70 billion dollars for India. So ideally 4 times of that would come to around 280 billion. But what is the China size? It is 2300 billion dollar plus. So this is not 4x. This is, I mean, close to 40x. One total extra zero here. So number of e-commerce shoppers, India versus China is 4x. China has 4x number of shoppers. But if I'm talking about the overall e-market size, it's crazy in comparison to India. And I'm sure you have this question right now, that what happened in China? Why was there such a big boom in the overall e-commerce space? So when I read a report, I found that there were 3 waves that led to this big boom in e-commerce. Wave 1 was from 2003 to 2013, where people searched for products online and then they bought them. And that is where companies like Taobao or Tmall became pretty famous in China. They are their e-commerce companies. Okay. Now, wave 2 was extremely important for them because this was more about price commerce. And that is what we are talking about, right? Value commerce. This changed everything in China as far as e-commerce was concerned. This happened somewhere between 2015 to 2023, and an e-commerce company called Pinduoduo actually, killed this. They actually were able to ride this entire wave of value commerce in China, which happened in 2015 to 2023. What were the key points? Pinduoduo was built for what? Low income users, bargain hunters, the same, and these the same points that we are talking about, right? Low income users, bargain hunters, low tier cities, unbranded products, discovery led shopping, and low delivery cost. And because of this, China became the largest because of which Pinduoduo became China's largest e-commerce company and had a market cap of $200 billion. Amazing, right? But this is not where China's e-commerce market stopped, and this is where wave 3 came into picture, which was about content commerce. They'll be like, huh? We know content creators, we know e-commerce. What is this mixture of content commerce? That's what we're going to understand right now. This is where players like TikTok China and a company like Douyin came into picture. 2020 onwards, it was more about short videos, live stream shopping, and this became a $1 trillion commerce channel, which became bigger than Alibaba. And this was more of content led discovery, impulse purchases. So, what Pinduoduo built with price, Douyin is amplifying it with content. Now, if I were to give you a simple example, pay 100% attention. Currently, what happens in India? Assume that, let's say we are talking about some XYZ app. Okay, typically content creators like me, if I were to sell this watch as an example, I would say la 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 la, these are the features of the watch, and if you want to buy it, check the link in my bio. You'll go to the link in my bio, then that link will take you to some other website, then you will create your username, la la la. Until then, maybe people's interest is lost. Versus, if you can now imagine, there is TikTok, China TikTok. Inside that, creators like me, assume, are creating content about the sari. Immediately just below the wall, on my reel feed itself, you have multiple saris displayed there as a catalog. You choose one of them, you shop then and there itself. Wow, sounds interesting, right? Is something like that available in India? Absolutely, yes. If you know, Misho has this feature. We're going to talk about that later. But then the question comes up is, if this were to really boom in India, can I compare the number of social media users in India versus China? We can, right? So we'll go back to the chart, and if we see, social media users in India are 500 million, China is 1080 million. So China is just 2x as far as social media users are concerned. Now the question is that how many people look at the content creators reels and buy then and there itself? So anyone who is doing that, that money, if a customer watches a content creator's reel and immediately makes a purchase, that will fall under the category of content commerce. That's because it's an e-commerce, but it is driven by content which is done by a content creator, right? Now this is something which is going to blow off your mind. Read this. Content commerce GMV as a percentage of e-commerce. So overall gross merchandise value, uska how much is coming from content commerce? In China, it is 40 to 50%. Out of whatever GMV they are generating e-commerce, 40 to 50% is because of creator led content. Then and there, TikTok pay or whatever we talked about, they are purchasing then and there itself. How about India? India is 1 to 2%. Is there a clear gap? Absolutely yes. If we can, if we can really crack this wave 2, which was about price commerce, which was led by Pinduoduo, and if we can combine that with content commerce, something like Douyin or TikTok China, we may enter that phase where we can have our Pinduoduo moment or our TikTok China moment. And I think that is where Meesho can really come in as India's value e-commerce champion. Now let's understand what is Meesho or Meri Shop. It's a technology driven online marketplace. So what does it do? Does it own some products? No. Does it keep inventory? No. Does it have its own warehouses? No. Does it sell its own private label products? Answer is no. And then you'll be like, Arey, but then what does it do? It actually simply connects. Connects whom? Connects buyers who are wanting to buy affordable products. Very important. Value e-commerce, right? They connect sellers who are ready to supply their products. They connect logistic partners. Now, logistic partners have a little bit wider meaning because they are the one who run the sorting centers and they also ship the products to the customers. Okay. And one more very important leg is content creators who make videos or live streams of products. You know, a customer, instead of walking into your shop, you showing him the products. Now you're showing the products online. People can actually e-visit your shop on something like a Meesho app, and that's where people will watch your content. If they like it, they can see the product catalog right away. Based on the catalog, whatever product they choose, they'll simply click on that, and that's how they can immediately shop. So that is how Meesho is like a platform which is like a digital bazaar, right? Now, for what's in it for the consumers? Now, I think you know it very clearly, but a quick wrap up now again. For consumers, they get personalized product feeds, and that will be basically done using AI. So, for example, if I've searched for kurtis, Meesho's AI will ensure that I get more and more kurti wala feeds so that someday or the other I will buy some kurti from Meesho app. Okay. Then they'll ensure that consumers are shown products in the affordable range, let's say 200 to 400 rupees range. When they buy, they will ensure that Meesho arranges for the delivery through their logistic partners, obviously. And very important is for consumers, there is no subscription fee or there is no platform fee. Okay. Why buyers would typically like Meesho? As I said, main point is affordability. Plus, they have a good variety of products, and the app feels something like Instagram or TikTok for shopping, right? The only point that you must remember is average order value that has been decreasing year on year. You can see from 2023 to 2025, it has gone down from 336.71 to 274.27. From a business perspective, I may say average order value is dropping. But from a consumer perspective, if I'm getting same products at cheaper prices, why will I not be happy? Okay. But as a businessman, again, if you are able to play the volume game, then why not? Correct. Now let's turn for sellers. Who could be the sellers on Meesho? They could be home-based sellers, small manufacturers, traders, regional brands. But why would they join? Very important feature of a platform like Meesho is that Meesho charges zero commission. Okay. So let's say I am a small seller. I list my products on Meesho, and if there is a sale through Meesho, I pay zero commission to Meesho for the sale. Good point for the seller. So for a seller, what I need to do, I just need to click a photograph of my product that I need to sell. Automatically, with their tech driven platform, the entire catalog will be automatically created. Correct. Meesho will handle the delivery, Meesho will handle the return, so no headache for the seller, and seller will get paid once the order is completed. Okay. So all in all, sellers could like Meesho for a main point that seller can get instant access to 200 plus million buyers who are already present on the platform, right? Now what is in it for the logistics partner? So basically for logistic partners, Misho uses a tech system called as Valmo. Now what do? They assign parcels in such a way that they are assigned to the most efficient delivery partner. Now, does the cost per delivery reduce? Absolutely yes. Industry standard for cost per delivery is around 80, and for Meesho it is 43 rupees, right? So that's a good one. And it will help small delivery companies earn more by aggregating this entire demand. One point that you must remember, Meesho doesn't own any delivery trucks or delivery vans or hubs or anything like that. Okay. And for fourth leg, which is content creators, I already talked about it. They can create short videos, live streams, product reviews, and of course, for that, they're going to earn a small commission. I'm sure you have one question mark in your head, big question mark in your head, that if Meesho is not charging any commission to the seller, how are they even making money? Simple. There are three major revenue streams for them. Number one is logistics or fulfillment fee. Okay, so there is zero commission agreed, but will they charge for delivery? Yes. If there is a return pickup, if there is a return, will they charge a return pickup fee? Yes. For onward logistic fee, will they charge? Absolutely yes. So all these will be earning for whom? For Meesho. Okay. Next is about advertisement, very important. Like people can run Insta ads or Google ads, you can also run ads on Meesho platform. So for example, if I am a seller and I want to promote my product, I want my product to be more visible, I can run paid ads on Meesho. Who is going to earn income? It is going to be Meesho. But for sellers, why would seller want to do that? Seller would want to do that to, number one, as I said, to boost the visibility of their product, correct? They could also want their product to be shown as a special listing, sponsored listing category thing. And very important is that they would get a higher placement in search or in the feed for their product, right? So this is like a very high margin revenue stream for Meesho. Ultimately, the third stream is like data insights and value added services. So something like market insights, demand trends, because they have the entire AI, which product is being demanded. They can tell about that. They can give different seller tools, automated ad optimization, and a lot more. And that is the reason why sellers may willingly pay for such different kinds of services, right? So all in all, just to wrap up this segment, what sort of products are majorly sold? If you check at 2025 data, more than 50% is sold by two product categories. One is apparel and one is footwear and accessories. Now that you know so much about Meesho, last 2 points remaining. One is about the KPIs and risks involved. Let's now talk about average order value. Okay, now here I'm just changing the context. Okay, I'm not comparing Meesho with itself. Now I'm going to compare Meesho with Pinduoduo in China, and I'm going to point out one pain point. Okay, now if you see average order value, acha, had we talked about average order value? Yes, I'd already told you, right, that it is decreasing. Okay, so we had discussed about that. But currently, as at 2025, the average order value for Meesho is around $3. And if I were to compare that with Pinduoduo in China, it is around $6.50. Now, why is this important? Because for every order, you are going to incur a logistics cost. And even if you want to ship one shirt, or if you are wanting to ship two shirts, ultimately it is going to have a similar logistics cost, right? So it's very important that your logistic cost as a percentage of AOV is not extremely high. Okay, now if you check for Pinduoduo, the logistic cost is around 8 to 11% of its average order value, and for Meesho it is 28%, almost one third of its average order value. Now if they are able to make some solution, if they are able to come up with some solution around this where their logistic cost decreases, can their EBITDA increase? Yes. Can their profitability increase? Yes. How does their current EBITDA look like? Unfortunately, if you check the adjusted EBITDA, all be 2023, 24, 25, all are in losses. Are they in a decreasing trend? Yes, absolutely yes, but are still all in losses? Answer is yes. So even if you check the restated loss for the period, all years 23 to 25, all in losses. So of course you can see, oh bapre, this loss has more than what, doubled from 16,000 million to 39,000 million. Crazy loss, right? Wait, there is an exceptional item here. So if you check restated loss before exceptional item, in fact it has gone down from 16,000 million to 3,000 million to 1,000 million. Okay, so is this in a decreasing trend? Absolutely yes. But again, if you check for 3 months ended, it has spiked up, and how, to 1,476 million. Okay. Now, talking about KPIs, first think logically. See, ideally, number of sellers on the platform, if they increase, is it a good sign? Yes. If number of buyers increase, is that a good sign? Yes. If number of orders placed on the platform, if they increase, is that a good sign? Yes. If the gross merchandise value, the amount which is sold, gross merchandise value, if that keeps on increasing, is that a good sign? Yes. Is net merchandise value, basically net of all discounts and all that, if that is also increasing, is that a good sign? Yes. Is that the case with Meesho? Yes, absolutely. Now, if you look at annual transacting users, you can see they have increased from 136 million to 198 million. And if I'm talking about 30th June 2025, it's 213 million. Of course, I'm not going to read out for each and every point, but even if you see for sellers, it is increasing. For placed orders, it is increasing. Of course, you will say, "Arey, this is decreasing." This is 3 months data. This is full year data. Okay. Now, if you see number of orders placed, there has been a growth, very good growth. Order frequency is also increasing. GMV is increasing, net merchandise value is increasing. All in all, are these all good signs? Answer is yes. All in all, I hope you have understood all these points, and that is where the key risk also comes into picture. Where if you see very clearly, they have mentioned in their DRHP that they had restated loss before exceptional items. They have given the amounts, and last line they say that if we are unable to generate adequate revenues and manage our cash flows and expenses, we may continue to incur losses. Okay. One more final point is about the cash on delivery. Now, if you see here, as at 2025, you can see here, cash on delivery orders as a percentage of shipped orders is 76%. Almost, even if I check 30th June ended data, 75%. Prepaid orders, 25%. So it's almost a 3:1 split. That is one way to look at it. But second way to look at it is a good sign, where their COD orders have dropped from 88% to 75%, and obviously their prepaid orders have increased from 11% to 25%. So is it a good sign that this prepaid orders percentage is in an increasing trend? Answer is yes. So I hope all in all you have understood about the overall retail market boom in India. In that we talked about e-commerce, in that we talked about value e-commerce, and for that one perfect example of Meesho is what I took in today's video. I hope you have understood a lot. You have earned a lot of knowledge in today's video. If you did, please don't forget to smash the like button. Please don't forget to share this video with a lot of your friends. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care. Jai Hind and bye-bye. You might have come across such advertisements on various social media platforms. Please note, all of these are fraudsters promising unbelievable returns through stock tips. I don't provide any calls or advisory services. I provide only educational content through my social media handles and through my website rachanaranade.com and rachanaranade.in.